peace agreement earlier this month. After 2 years of war and perhaps 500,000 civilian deaths, Tigrayan forces are to give up their weapons. The Ethiopian army will take control of Tigray, and aid should begin to reach millions of desperate people. My guest is Getachew Reda, who signed the deal on behalf of the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front. Was this, in effect, the TPLF's surrender? Who is in control? Is it the Ethiopian armed forces, the federal armed forces, or is it your forces from the TPLF?
It's our forces who are firmly in control of Magala.
Right, so this is a very delicate stage of the peace process, because over the next few days there is supposed to be a disengagement process and then full authority and control of Mekele and other key towns and cities, your airports and everything else, is supposed to be handed over to the federal government and federal forces, right? What matters most, particularly in the context of a terrible 2-year war, is who has the guns and who imposes their authority with the gun. And according to the deal that you signed at the beginning of this month with the Ethiopian representatives, your TPLF forces are going to disarm within 30 days. So clearly, your forces will no longer have the power of the gun.
What we have agreed is, as long as the security interests of Tigray are taken care of, and as long as the political conditions that gave rise to the conflict in the first place are duly taken care of, which would, of course, involve some kind of political dialogue between our two sides, and then we have no business maintaining our artillery pieces or our tanks.
It's a very tight schedule that you agreed to. You said that, yes, within 30 days, the Tigrayan forces, you can call them whatever you want, but it is the TPLF armed force, you said they would be demobilized and disarmed within 30 days. Now, the clock is ticking. Several of those days have already passed. So is that already happening?
No, disengagement is happening. At least we are doing our part as far as disengagement is concerned. You should know that Tigray is not facing threats not only from the federal government, but also from the Eritrean government and other troops.
I do understand that, and we'll talk about Eritrea and their forces in a moment. But let us stick to what matters most. You know, people around the world have seen how terrible, how costly this 2-year conflict has been. Hundreds of thousands of lives lost, of civilians, let alone the fighters lost as well on both sides. So I just want to be very clear. Nothing that's happened in the last few days since you were in Pretoria and signed the agreement, nothing has happened to change your commitment to disarm and demobilize TPLF fighting forces, right?
Well, nothing has changed, but we still expect a number of actions to be carried out.
Are you ready to acknowledge here and now that you in Tigray, the TPLF, you lost the war?
No, we don't lose a war. This is a people's war. People fighting against tyranny, people fighting against any imposition from outside, from inside. And these are people who are fiercely in favor of exercising their rights.
Yeah, but the thing is, I do remember our last interview, which was in August 2021, and I went back and I looked at what you said to me then, and then you were in a real fighting mood, and you said to me, until the entire war military apparatus that has caused us misery and chaos in Tigray ceases to operate, we will continue to take whatever action is necessary. It is quite clear, even to the spring and summer of this year, you and all of your leadership in Tigray thought you could win. But the bottom line is, you haven't won, you have capitulated. You have agreed to disarm and demobilize your forces. As we've already established, the federal government is going to put its forces into all the key installations in Tigray. It will be in control, and all you have is a promise that in the future you will be reincorporated into the federal system.
Well, I wouldn't agree with your simple arithmetic of people. Like you said, we've been saying that what we need is security in Tigray. What we need is addressing the overall political problems that afflicted the region, and of course the imposition that the siege that was imposed on us. We have done everything and will continue to do in our power, whether that is through the barrel of gun or through peaceful means is what has changed at this point in time.
What did you think, Getachew Reda? What did you think when Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed he went down to greet his supporters in the south of Ethiopia on November 3rd? That is the day after you signed that agreement in Pretoria, and he proclaimed that he had and his government had achieved a, quote, historical victory. They had achieved, he said, 100% of the things that they set out to achieve in the negotiations with you. If he has won 100% of what he wanted, I put it to you that whatever you say to me, the people of Tigray and Ethiopia will see you as the losers.
Well, I'm not particularly interested in whether the people consider me a loser or not. What matters to me is whether the interests of the people of Tigray is taken care of.
You talk about painful concessions, and I feel a little bit of pain in your voice. In all honesty and on reflection, do you wish that you and the TPLF leadership had not started this war back in November 2020, a war which has cost... The Ghent University research team reckons up to 600,000 civilian lives, caused immense hardship to millions of your people. Do you wish that you hadn't, in the end, attacked that federal army base on Tigrayan territory back in November of 2020?
We didn't start the war. It was imposed on us. But I wish it didn't happen. I wish there was a chance for us to deal with this problem peacefully. But I'm not saying that we assume full responsibility for starting the war, because we didn't start the war. It was imposed on us.